So for this video demonstration, we're going to give you the intro to the jeweler's workbench. To start, we have our rack of pliers and cutters, all serving different purposes that we'll get into more detail with. In the middle here, we have our hot work area where we do our torch work with the solder pad, the boric acid and flux, our third arm, solder pick, some organized trays, steel block, miscellaneous tools in the rubber pad, and the water. Over here we have our bench microscope for this detailed work and stone setting, and then our jeweler's torch and the igniter and some different torch tips. And that brings us to the flex shaft and the handpiece. Here we have an assortment of gravers and tweezers, and our heavy tools drawer with hammers and mandrels. Here we have the loop, 10 power, and the jeweler's visor, also magnified but also provides eye protection. Now we're going to go over our pliers. Most of these will have multiple different uses, such as these flat nose pliers, just depending on your needs. Some of them have very specific uses. These are just the most common ones that you'll see in the jeweler shop. Here's a pair of needle nose or round nose pliers. Chain nose pliers, rounded kind of like the round nose, but flat on the inside. Bent nose pliers. These are parallel jaw pliers. The way the mechanism works when they open is both jaws remain perfectly flush to each other instead of bending at a singular point at the bottom. These pliers are called ring benders or pig's feet, and they serve a very specific purpose: to bend the shank of the ring down when it's broken or when you've downsized it. Those come in multiple different forms. The jaws on these are more round, creates a smoother bend. And over here we also have our flush cutters. Different sizes depending on how thick the material is that you're working on. Those are the most common pliers and cutters you're going to see in the shop. Now we have our hot work area. The hot work area is mainly the solder pad here. It's a ceramic tile. You can see I've got the different types of solders, and this is where you're going to be using your torch. You'll have your solder pick, your third arm, which is some cross-lock tweezers that'll hold your items in place while you work on them. We also have our boric acid. It's our flame coating when you're soldering things. And our flux to keep your joints clean. And always, as a safety precaution, a cup of water. In this area is where we use our torch, so we're going to talk a little bit about our jeweler's mini torch. The red is for your fuel, ours is propane, and the green is for the oxygen. You have different size torch tips. They're all numbered on the back to tell you what size they are. The holes where the fuel escapes is just larger for the larger the number to allow a bigger flame. To light our torch, we have our electric igniter. We're going to turn our fuel on just slightly with no oxygen. Press down on the igniter and aim your torch until it lights. Now, to judge the size of your flame, you can start without any oxygen, and you can see how large of a flame you need. When you find the size you want, slowly start to add some oxygen to the flame until you get a nice blue cone. So when you're trying to determine the type of heat and the intensity that you need, you can judge that based on the shape of the cone at the tip of the torch. Right in front of that blue cone is the hottest point of the flame. The flame gets hotter the more oxygen you add. As you can see, the cone gets tighter and smaller, and it does go much hotter. You can lower the oxygen, and you can almost see a little bit of yellow right at the tip of the cone. That's called a feathery flame, and it's not as intense or localized for the heat. And then right in between is a nice medium flame. You can over-oxygenate a flame. If your flame is gone out because of too much oxygen, or you've got it very tight and small like this and it's not hot enough, then you have to volumize your flame by adding more fuel and then adding more oxygen to create the same shaped cone with the larger fuel source. To turn your torch off, always turn the oxygen, the green knob, all the way to the right, and then turn your fuel off by turning the red knob all the way to the right. So these are the most common styles of tweezers that you're going to encounter. They do come in different sizes, so I just pulled a common grouping out of the drawer. These are your fine point utility tweezers. These are your basic utility tweezers. You can see they've actually been burned on the end just from using them in combination with the torch. These are your special utility tweezers. They have a very small notch at the bottom to grab wires and earring posts, and they have a slide lock on the back so you can grab something and then lock the tweezers closed. These tweezers have a similar feature with the slide lock, but they're much longer, and they have teeth on the end. These are stone holding tweezers, specifically made to pick up and hold loose gemstones. These are your cross-lock tweezers. When you push them, they open, but they normally want to stay closed, as opposed to the rest of these tweezers. So these are the most common items from our heavy tool drawer, such as our ring mandrel. It's a steel graduated rod that's notched to show you what size a ring would be. This is a wood mandrel. It's used to hold rings, so you can cut them, work with them with a stable back support. There's multiple types of hammers that you'll encounter, but this is the most common and most frequently used. One side of this hammer is nylon, and one side of this hammer is brass. This is just a large file. Helps you shape and finish different items. These scissors are called solder shears. They're specifically designed to cut your tabs of solder. And then we have your ring clamp. It's a wooden vise, so when you're working with the top of the ring, you have a stable hold for it. So this is just a variety of hand tools that you'll also encounter. This big steel piece here is a burnisher. It's used to smooth and actually shine specific gold surfaces. This one is a prong pusher. It's actually grooved on the end. This is an assortment of gravers. Graver is a angled steel piece that comes to a sharp point. They can be very skinny or wide depending on the type of metal that you need to move. This is a set of beading tools. They're long steel bits with a smooth cup on the tip and the corresponding handle for bead setting or prong pushing. And this is a wax stick. It's a combination of beeswax and charcoal, and it is used to pick up loose stones. So this is our flex shaft, probably the single most useful tool the jeweler has. It is a handpiece that has a spring lever on the side that allows you to interchange different wheels and bits. And the spring lever locks it in. Now my wheel can't come out, and it has a foot pedal that will rotate the wheel. This is just an array of different wheels that we use. Sandpaper, horsehair for polishing, sandpaper on a disc. This is a coarse stone called a Mizzy wheel, cutting disc, a burnisher, and there is an endless variety of wheels and shapes and types and grit that you can use for different finishing aspects. This is the other half of the assortment of items that you can use for your flex shaft. It's all metal bits and drills, twist drills, wheels. Those are cup burrs for finishing prongs, circular ball burrs. There's specific burrs for setting stones, such as this one here is a setting burr, different grinders, and all those will also work in your flex shaft. This is the jeweler's visor. It is the most important item you will find in a jeweler's shop for one specific reason. Although it does have magnification for the lenses, it is eye protection. A lot of the things that we do and the processes we go through require things that move at a high speed, and certain items, if you're cutting it off of a piece of jewelry or one of your items breaks in the process, will spin at a very high speed right into your face. You do not want to take a sharp metal object or a hot piece of metal directly into the eyeball. It will be catastrophic. Always wear these 100% of the time when you are doing anything at the jewelry bench, forever and ever. Amen.